Kuna, if we're looking at 46 years in terms of the hard yards that you have walked, it's great that you're weighing in with that length of experience of your entrepreneurial journey. Perhaps you can just flesh out some of the highlights for us this evening.
Well, most importantly, Yolanda, the owner of the program, and Brownen, our host, and our fellow panelists. And it's great to be here. And I'm here because of the journey. If I didn't travel this journey of 46 years, I won't be sitting on this program tonight, whereby most of the viewers are viewing us. And everything started from the vision. And if you don't have the vision, there's nothing that you can achieve. So I was a bit ahead of time, because you see, you realize that my vision started during apartheid time, and whereby I saw how the country was segmented, and I said the country is segmented into 3 spheres. This urban area, township, and rural area, and precisely it was segmented along those lines so that they can implement apartheid. But I saw an opportunity, and I told myself that one day I'm going to be the property developer in those areas whereby no one gave a chance that it can be developed. And I hear some of our panelists are my tenants in those areas. So you can see that I've started providing service to all those panelists and those who are having vision, and we're ready to grow with them and guide them because we've got experience.
Liko, subsisting and your vision in terms of made with rural. For me, this is just such an exciting entrepreneurial journey, because agriculture has got to be one of the key economic drivers of the African continent going forward. And it's about reinventing agriculture. I myself am a farmer. So if you can give me a sense of your journey and agriculture you've gotten to this point.
Well, my journey, it has been so straightforward and long, and I've just alluded to it started with a vision. And if you work with your vision and your discipline and dedication, and I'm glad you're talking about, when you talk about the rural area, you bring in the agriculture. I've just launched in the Kuna city in a place called Buzana in the rural area, whereby it's a mixed-use development. But on top of it, I'm busy working with some professors put around a university that will specialize in agriculture, because in some areas within that city, because it's an integrated development industries, will have some food processing, whereby those who have vision will be able to go in there and do their food processing. And of course, you cannot do agriculture without having a market. So we are going to create all those kind of things, and I believe it's some of the things that this country flourish from. Insofar as
so Dr. Nkuna, I just want to bring Alan Not Craig into the conversation. And Alan, my apologies in terms of my earlier introduction and omitting you from our prestigious line. I want to bring you right in now in terms of getting a sense of Alan Not Craig, where you are, the many ventures that you've got on the go. And of course, you are one of those entrepreneurs that really, really stands out in the South African and African environment. And I know that you've probably got the global environment in your sights.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Thanks for the invitation to be here, Yolanda. And I was quite enjoying listening to the doctor. So, but don't get too excited, doctor, because I'm married. I don't want you to get any funny ideas. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I couldn't get a job in 2003, And since then, I've been very lucky to have a few adventures along the way, including Mixit. I don't know if any of you use Mixit. Remember Mixit, Bronwyn?
I do, and I know that you were there, right?
Yeah. So you were a pedophile.
Driving the Mixit adventure.
Yeah. So that was a fantastic failure. So I'm quite well known for that one. But since then, I've been involved in.
It's the Bento. It's 100% pure beer.
Sorry, Barney, can you hear me? I can't hear anything.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, and since 2013 or so, I've been involved with a whole lot of ventures trying to bring kind of affordable internet to all South Africans. And as you said, it's a global opportunity. So if you can bring internet to all South Africans, then you can bring internet to a lot of people in the world. So that's my story. Yeah.
Liko, let's get you in here in terms of, again, just picking up on what Dr. Nkuna was saying around agriculture and the fact that you are, I think at the end of the day, you could ultimately change the face of agriculture completely. I mean, here you are taking subsistence farming, turning it into a business, and certainly this is what not only South Africa, but the African continent desperately needs. So why did you choose this space when it comes to Made with Rural?
Thank you, Bronwyn, and thank you, Yolanda, for inviting me. I didn't choose the space. The space chose me. I'm just a rural girl. I was, in the city. I studied in Cape Town. I just wanted to be in corporate, get a mansion, get a big car, and do what young people in corporate do. But I come from a lineage of crop sharers and subsistence farmers. I mean, that has been in both my maternal side and paternal side of the family for many, many years. I grew up in Makapanstad village, just north of Pretoria, where subsistence farming is the day. So, being out in corporate world, in the city, doing city stuff, and then going back home for funerals, for weddings, I saw a huge disconnect, in a space that I believe is part of who I am. I mean, farming is school holidays, we will be in the fields, picking oranges or planting spinach and a whole lot of other cash crops. So I saw a huge disconnect between the buyers in the city and what the farm have on the ground. So those farmers in those cases are not considered, when it comes to procurement in your massive retail stores or your hotel groups and places like that. So that's how agriculture chose me and put me in this platform to make sure that I can bring the two together in a most respectful and sustainable manner or platform.
Given, let's come back to the discussion on the challenges that we've all experienced over the last 2.5, almost 3 years in terms of the pandemic reality and how we've all had to reinvent the way that we do things. I mean, obviously, we're looking at the digital environment having been hugely accelerated. Your media play must have looked at this environment and said, where are those opportunities? Where are the gaps? And how do I capitalize on them? Give me a sense of how you have reworked your reality, given what we have all experienced in terms of a global pandemic.
No, thanks, Bronwyn. So my view is that the difference between businesses that succeed and those that don't would go back to the quality of the leadership of organizations in many respects. So for us, for example, what the pandemic has done is that it's just given us an edge over the more established, much bigger players. in that we are nimble, we are quite flexible. It doesn't take us more than an hour to make critical decisions because between ourselves and our management teams, we do have the room and the space. So if you look at just our, certainly on the broadcasting side, we saw a probably on average, the radio advertising pool in the previous year was down about 40%. We were down 10%. We are focusing in the next financial year growth around 60% in revenue. And the good news, those of you who follow the industry will have seen that our two current platforms, Power 987 is up on audience, a good almost 200%. Capricorn threatening almost 300% growth. And on the income side, the numbers are going to be quite encouraging. And a lot of it is exactly that, is that we don't have the luxury to wait to make certain calls. And we find that established businesses are generally lazier because they do have a backup. They have a massive institutional investors. We don't have a uncle behind ourselves. The only uncle that we have is us. So while, and I know that a lot of South Africans, certainly at the personal level, have suffered a lot, but I think our rate of response has been quite impressive, and I'm very proud of all our team members across the country, our management teams, and our respective boards. I think for me, Bronwyn, the real point is this, that, and I think it was Theo who alluded to this, that there's essentially the biggest opportunity for every entrepreneur in this country is the basic reality that nothing in this country was designed with the interest or convenience of the majority of South Africans. So while you've got economies in almost every concentration of players, so between 3 to 5, whereas telco, financial services, resources, there remains the biggest opportunity in South Africa for young people, black and white, is simply that there are many things that were made or designed, be they services or products, that were not designed for black people or the majority. And if that is not a better opportunity, I don't know what. Similarly, in tough times like these, because most businesses were not designed for us, established businesses struggle to respond when circumstances change, because the majority of established businesses were born at the back of black people's pain. They don't know how to respond when black people start asking for convenience, when people start asking for respect, when black people say, I matter. Businesses in South Africa are not designed in the main with black dignity in mind. And I think those of us who respect, love, and treasure black lives, be they black or white, are likely to do better than those who are still stuck in the disrespect that black people are subjected to in this country, dare I say also on the continent.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your shoe empire, and I'm wondering what happened during COVID-19. I'm hoping that perhaps slipper sales, in terms of stokies, I'm not sure. Did people start wearing shoes in the pandemic because we were all locked down at home? Give us this of your reality.
I think, it goes without saying that it's pretty clear that more than anything else, I don't sell, my consumers are not people who are in need of shoes. I'm not selling to people that are desperate for shoes, but I'm selling more than anything else, a lifestyle brand, a cool factor product. And obviously due to the pandemic, the consumer behavior is, heavily impacted by the lockdown restrictions, the different, levels that we had to go through, because the consumer that I'm selling to, is about lifestyle and, social.
And nobody was going out. I mean, that lifestyle came to an end.
So irrespective of Batu's got a cooler sneaker out, that really can, complement my outfit to go out to that party or to go out to that date. When President Ramaphosa and the government says that we are on alert level 5 and there's no events, the consumer is not enticed or, appetite to go and buy a sneaker because everything else is just indoors. And I think that's where, and I think maybe Dr. Nkuna can attest to this even further, as to what really happened to the consumer, and in retail sector at large, and I think for us as small businesses, we really took a knock in that. But fortunately, I think the best thing that happened with us as Batu is that the way we've built and the way we've corporatized our business from day one, we're very intentional about, not only the current market, but what will the future look like, and even without knowing whether we're going to be in the pandemic in the next few years. When we started, we made sure that we build a solid story and brand story that resonates with the people. And not only that, but even the way we corporatize our business from, working capital, and as to whether we invest in, the different types of OPEX project and CAPEX project, so that we can, sustain the business. Because right at the core of our mission, it speaks about, reigniting hope and creating sustainable jobs. And I think to date, we've created jobs in the townships that we come from, with a brand that resonates with the people. And talking about that, even we are a business that said, even when the retail sector was closed for the first 6 weeks of lockdown, and we said that because we resonate with the people, we are a brand that is very passionate about the people. We're going to people before profit, and even in unfavorable times of trade, we chose people more than anything. And our client chose us when the country opened up, and I think that's one thing that really helped us to scale even further, when we're in a pandemic, and helped us to go even further, because we're not just a brand that talks about all of these values and brand promise, but we go back to the community and show them what is it that we do with their support and the proceeds that we're getting in the business. You look at the CSI that we've just launched now, the Batu for Batu Care project, about walking the journey with the future leaders, and this is the future consumer that is going to strive and support us in favorable times of trade. And I think that thing that really helped us, our intentions, our mission to go back and build with the consumer together, because we are an inclusive brand more than anything else. We build with the consumer. We don't just build with the shareholder or for value, but we build with our consumer.
So that matter, people before profit. To Theo throwing forward to the fact that you can give a sense of how badly the consumer environment was impacted, and how you managed your businesses, specifically, the township retail property sector, how you managed to hold steady through perhaps the toughest environment that anybody has ever seen globally.
Well, look, from retail perspective, we have been hit, twice. The first one was, the pandemic, which, when we went, to a total down, it affected us badly, especially in terms of the retail in the township and rural areas. And there was one who was patronized centers, outlets. So the outlets, continue to see, people come, the shopping mall, though, when they come, they were coming, in a controlled environment, as you were aware, that, wouldn't be able to allow all the people coming into the center, and we're going to break the law if we had allowed them to come. So that alone, the trade density, came down to the level of about 40%. But you see, we were lucky because, on some kind of comparison, because you find that, the people that, are in the suburban areas, they were able to buy online. And whereas, our people in the township, they are not able to buy online because they don't have those facilities. They have to go to the shop and, buy on a daily basis. And they don't have the luxury of buying grocery in big baskets, whereby, they can go and store in big fridges. So they buy for today and tomorrow. And that's how, our Black people, they've been. And fortunately, I come from retail because myself, I was a butcher myself. I saw the pattern, as people, they'll come to the butchery and buy meat, and they'll buy for today and also come and buy for tomorrow. So the second, hit was, of course, the unrest. We have all seen the unrest, which hit us hard, in the areas like Bulani and here. Because you see, I'm a great believer of, changing the economy of this country. Like Given was saying that if you look at, the economy of this country was not designed to serve everybody. It was designed to serve a certain particular race. Now we're trying to open it up. And I then said, we're not going to be deterred by what is happening, unrest or unrest. We are going to rebuild and see now if you can go to Jabulani with almost 80%, go to Protea with almost 90%. But, now we can start, going down to the township and government bring, a bulk infrastructure so that we can create those facilities so that, even the younger generation can be able to learn from us. And those are the areas that, we can start creating jobs, because the biggest problem that we have in this country. And if to go with the support of government, and government, be able to put money where, it's supposed to be put, because their duty is to make sure that, the bulk infrastructure is there, and will be coming with, the top structure, and they'll be able to charge us.
So Dr. Nkuna,
it's a win-win situation.
Exactly, a win-win situation. And Alan, let's come to you in terms of the win-win situation that you've created. I want you to give a bit more insight into the Easyware project that you are dealing with, and then also can you give us a sense, because those, and again, how your reality changed with COVID-19?
Thanks, Bronwyn. So it actually all started when I was in Harvard, and I had an epiphany, and I realized that if you're living in South Africa, it doesn't matter what race you are, you have to kind of be doing something that tries to make the country a little bit more fair. And I mean, I'm reading these comments on the chats, and I mean, it's like an infinity of people trying to get ahead, I mean, there are a lot of adverts there, people putting their numbers and emails saying, give me a call if you have geotechnical needs, And I just think that's the whole point of the internet. The internet makes it a bit easier for people who are just trying to, escape wherever they are, to get ahead and find opportunity and make money and make a living. So when I was with Yolanda, I kind of realized that, and then I kind of got committed to this idea that if you could try and make money whilst trying to get on the internet, then you could be making a positive difference. And that ultimately culminated in something called Project Easyware. It started out as a non-profit organization, and we did summer project where we worked with the city of 2013, 2014 until about 2017. And we, in our municipality, would provide you with free internet, which was a vote getter and success. And since then, our organization's become a for-profit and much more focused on trying to think about how you can make that a sustainable, without relying on the government to give you money. So for all of you guys and girls that are sending these messages saying, phone me for work, I would suggest you don't rely on the government for your revenues. It's quite exciting when the money comes in, but it can be quite unreliable. And so what we're trying to do is trying to create locally sustainable community Wi-Fi kind of networks where the community is actually making the money out of the network.
Liko, let's talk about the supply chain when it comes to agriculture, specifically the space that you play in must have been really hard hit. And you just think about the ecosystem, about getting goods to market, it must have imploded. So how did you?
Yeah, so what happened during the pandemic, it was, Bronwyn, we were categorized or classified as essential services, but on the ground, it was a different story. The buying patterns changed. A lot of people, I think, they didn't know what to expect, or how to best prepare themselves for the pandemic or for the lockdown. So people bought a lot of tinned goods instead of your fresh produce, and it was the beginning of the harvest. I remember our first harvest March, around about of April, when the lock was, you could sell them anyway, because I mean you are a group of small farmers came into of many retail stores last, so you're gonna get the pushback. The guys that have always been there for years were considered first. So that really hit us hard, and considering that in the country as it is, Given and Theo have talked about it earlier, that the way it's designed, it's almost like we round squares trying to fit into square cubes, and it's just not happening. So you end up with these vegetables that you can't sell anywhere because the townships were closed in terms of hawkers. Hawkers were not allowed to trade. That affected, the small grower big time, because most of us sell, what the retail market can take, it goes onto the Joburg fresh produce market. And now the market wasn't open for hawkers, but yet it was open for retailers, So you start seeing some of these inequalities and injustices, that are happening in the industry. Unlike when I first joined, when I first got into agriculture, I was very excited. I've got the passion. I've got, the experience growing up in a rural community where we used to plant and all of that. But on the ground, it was a totally different story, So it's food. To me, I just kept saying it's food. We all eat. At best, we eat 3 meals a day. So the market is wide open. We're just going to be printing money. We're going to be selling. But you get in the market and you realize, no, it's not the case. Food is not food, is not food. What you consider to be a tomato, at a huge retail, I tell you that they are looking for it in a particular shape, color, and I feel like have all sorts of bells and whistles that comes with it. What is needed in South Africa is not businesses that will come with the same old way of trading, of what we have been seeing happening. We need an alternative system that, as Theo has said, will put profit before people. We are sitting here with a huge statistics of people that go to bed hungry, but yet, as I narrated at the beginning of my input, we had cucumbers that we couldn't sell anyway. We have people in the rural areas and townships that are not accustomed to eating cucumbers or your salad vegetables. The industry will push to the townships and rural areas what they termed black veg, being your cabbages, your carrots, your onions, your starchy vegetables, your potatoes, and things like that. So what I am doing and my team is to get out there and change the way the consumer buys things, or the consumer supports local farmers.
Which is fantastic. And hopefully we're going to see that trend moving across the African continent. We're here at the Durban International Convention Center right now, on the cusp of the Africa Trade Fair, which kicks off tomorrow. We've got heads of states and journalists, and agriculture is such a big theme, and sustainability of supply chain in agriculture is certainly going to be one of the very, very crucial focus areas. Given, I want to come back to you here. I use this word sustainability because one thing that COVID has taught us is, to survive. And I'm sure that as you look forward, you've gotten to where your business now could sustain itself through a number of different scenarios, just given our experience.
So, Bruno, you broke a bit. So if you want to repeat the last part of your question.
So I was just saying that really sustainability is crucial.
Yeah.
And if anything, COVID's taught us how to sustain.
Yeah.
Those of us that have come through the pandemic and still are standing will probably relook the way that we do business forever.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally changed things. Agree?
No, absolutely. It does. It has certainly for us. But I think what I believe beyond COVID, what sustains businesses is if they stay true to their promise to whoever consumes a product or service. And by being honest, by respecting the customer, by respecting probably the most important stakeholder in the business, being the employee, and to Theo's last point, and then those of us who are entrepreneurs has showed us we actually find ourselves last on the line. I think COVID, though, has forced all of us to operate more optimally and more efficiently, realizing that essentially every aspect of your business in one way or another had some unnecessary fat that needed to be trimmed without messing up with life. And I think, here's the funny thing, Brown, I think that a lot of South Africans are already exposed to probably what is one of the most dangerous phenomenon in the so-called business, which is that nowadays, Kari can just declare himself a hustler, an entrepreneur, a funder, and because being a business person is the hot ticket of late, people fall into lies, and now with access to social media. So what, for me, sustainability is track record. Okay, I may say whatever I say about myself, but are the trails of having created, maintained, grown, adapted, and does it look and feel like it will be here tomorrow? And I know that we have a lot of young people who are on this call. I'm not going to have another chance to speak. For me, sustainability is not what I say about myself. It's whether there's evidence. Because some of the most amazing entrepreneurs are not necessarily the best speakers, but they speak through their deeds. And so if somebody's going to call you to a conference and say they want to teach you how to be a business person, if Mkari is going to say, read my book because I write well, if Alan Craig says, don't go here, go there, as a young person, please spend some time, check if there's any product or any service that has been presented by those person, by that Mkari, and whether that is gone to last. As with Theo, I think there's evidence by me and a few friends that we have worn his shoe and that at every season that shoe keeps getting better. But I will not take Theo seriously if he keeps sending me on Twitter scratches of a shoe that he can design, because a real entrepreneur understands that 9 times out of 10, practice, execution is better than ideas and voices that are untested. That for me is sustainability.
Practice and execution. So let's, Theo, bring you in again here. And of course, earlier, I think it was referred to the fact that, and so did actually Liko, that resonates in terms of putting people before profit. And that must be key, as you alluded to in sustainability through COVID-19, that you actually looked at the value that underpins your business from a human perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I think the beauty about, I always say this, in my talks whenever I engage, is that I'm a product of opportunity, and, throughout my journey, either in corporate or in entrepreneurship, I've been awarded great opportunities, from furthering my studies to working for great corporates. And even when I was in corporates, not only being in the bus, but sitting on the right seats under the right mentorship and leadership, that sort of guided me, sort of Alexander, most of my youthful years there, So oftentimes, even when I was in corporate and I was working for us, traveling the world and being exposed to all of this, I think ecosystems and value chains. Oftentimes, whether I'm coming back from a project in Cape Town, still come back to my reality, which is where people are unemployed, and a lot of the guys who are young, the youth, relatively young, are still unemployed. When you listen to this, means that they it's not easy, but some of them haven't gotten the opportunity, opportunities of furthering our studies, opportunities of working for great corporates, and not only in South Africa but across the globe as well. So I had a big ask upon myself to say, am I going to judge or sit in the corner and say, okay, I'm doing well, these guys are lazy, or am I going to quit my job, come back home, build our people? And even when I'm building, what is it that I'm building? How sustainable is it? Where is the impact? I've been in this journey for the last 5 years. Can I show my impact? Yes, because over the years we've transformed the lives, not only in the communities that our business was birthed, but also the communities that we trade in across South Africa, where we've created sustainable jobs and where we've seen people's life change and create sustainability. And it even goes beyond that. We've got mission of the year or transformation champion of the year. It's about the lives and the leaders that we've created in communities. 5 years ago, there was only one Theo who was in Alexandra working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, but today we've got Spiwes and Tebohos that are working for Batu, that are now leaders and role models in our own, out of a soul mandate to go back home, quit my job in corporate to go back home, and be of service to my community, and that is I think that is one thing that keeps us going, irrespective of the times that we're in, whether economy is favorable or unfavorable. But what are we saying to the consumer, and what is our brand promise? Is it just a PR statement? Yep.
So Theo, again, I just want to come now to and I think let's move to 3 of the most crucial lessons that all of you have learned over this period. Let's start with you, Theo, and then I'm going to get Dr. Nkuna to come in. The 3 most valuable lessons, of course, starting the essence of what we're doing tonight. And I think this is a great way, it came through from Yolanda, just asking those 3 most valuable lessons. Eoloy.
I think for me, the most lessons that I've learned, and I think we've got great leaders that can actually attest to this, is that excellence comes through service. It does not matter how great you are in your industry, but how are you being of service to the community? Because it doesn't matter. A typical example is that you can go to a restaurant and the coffee is terrible, but if the waiter is great and they're serving you, you will always come back for that service. And I think that's how we should, build our businesses, being of service to the community today, before the market share and the profit and everything else, and increasing the shareholders' value. How are we being of service to our communities? And number 2 is that there's a lot of I think we see it a lot overseas, where a lot of businesses that are today global corporates, they've started as urban brands, from a room from a garage or the back room. They've went to Silicon Valley, they went the IP route, they've literally corporatized and listed on different stock exchanges across the globe. Why where are we failing as Africans? About time that we start those urban businesses as well and go as far as corporatizing them, listing and creating real impact, more than anything else. And I think thirdly, one thing that I've learned is that it doesn't matter where you you are and the size of your business, human capital is very important, because oftentimes when I speak to my peers, my fellow other entrepreneurs that are starting business, we often look at, human capital or HR as an exercise of signing a contract of employment and agreeing on, the duties that you need to do, your roles and the salary and so forth. But human capital goes beyond that. You're talking about, human creatures that are creatures of emotion as well. You need to have end-to-end optimized value chains and processes that is going to help you be or build a business that has quality leaders in the business and be able to strive for excellence. So those are the three most important lessons that I've learned in the last 5 years. But I think we've got more great leaders that
well,
can
certainly
yeah.
That's resonating with the audience. I see some people are voting for you for right away.
Thank you.
Dr. Nkuna, can we distill, I mean, you must have had so many experiences. Can we distill the top 3 lessons that you would impart to entrepreneurs at this stage?
Well, to me, the great, lesson that, I've learned, over a number of years, Given has just, mentioned some that, there are some great speakers who are able to talk. There are good entrepreneurs that are not good in talking. These people, you are able to trace them. You are able to say, these people, they have started here, and then they move to this point and to this level. And what we have seen in this country, because of the changes, and I want to emphasize on this, and I've said it many times, we had, before, the dawn of, the new South Africa, a lot of, entrepreneurs. And those entrepreneurs, perished immediately after we took over, because, our government, introduced the tendering system, which, made people, billionaires and millionaires overnight. And those people never, understood how to run, a business. And, those people, their understanding was that, as long as, they befriend the politicians, and I'm going to say it as it is, as long as, they befriend the politicians, they'll become big, billionaires, because they'll get big tenders. And I'm saying that, tendering is not a business. You must have a vision, follow, your vision, be able to convince, the bankers that, are supposed to fund you, to understand that, what you're talking about, you understand it, and you understand that, this will be the cost. And I'm talking to an accountant here, who understand how to put, a business plan, so that, when they go there, they are able to assess your business plan and say, indeed, you've got the right, business plan. And I've given, an example in many talks, in many times when I was speaking, that, I was the first, black to borrow, 1.5 million from the Boardroom Bank, which today is called ABSA. And my bond was, declined, but see, I was able to go to the top managers, convince them to say, guys, you're wrong because of this and this. And when they do the reassessment and they realize that, this man knows his story. And, I was successful. And there was an outcry that, a black person has broken the bank. So I'm, appealing to the youngsters that, let's go to rethink. Each and everyone, when you are born, you come with your own talent. Go and identify your own talent and say, my talent is this. Work on that talent. And if you want to know my history is so long. Because you see, I've been working on various businesses. It's not, Mike Nkuna became, I won't call it a millionaire, I'll call it, a 500,000, person, over a long period, 46 years of work. And so what, Given said, we can create a lot of, entrepreneurs, and, we can encourage other entrepreneurs that can go and start something and have some fail. And, those, would be your legacy instead of, talking about,
So many positive comments coming up on the screen while you are speaking, Dr. Nkuna. Just people saying wisdom after wisdom coming from you, and passion equaling success. I know there's that old adage that if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And it certainly sounds as though you are in that camp.
Sorry to interject. You see, sorry to interject. You see, when I talk about property, because I'm passionate. And, when I entered in that space, there were not even a single Black person who was operating in that space. And if, you can ask me, how much do you know about this property? I can tell you, each and every, when I do a development, I'm not that type of a person who send, the professionals to go there and do the development without my involvement. I look into the design. You can present a plan. I'll tell you that, this plan, it won't work because, it will have some dead ends. Those retailers who are sitting there, they'll tell you that, we want to be close to ShopRite, or we want to be close to, and I'm able to design it such that, you have a free flow. So when you talk about something that you don't even have to prepare anything, because you talk about something that that you are passionate. So some other people, they are happy to be a BE of 26%. They don't know what's happening. And those who are working, they raise, the margin, they drop the profitability. Come the dividend time, you go and get, 200 rand, whereas they've taken millions out of the company. So you remain a fool.
Exactly. So wisdom in Tate Nkuna is what's coming up. And of course, just very powerful words. Everybody really resonating with what you are saying. Alan, it's a tough act to follow. Give me the three lessons that you would like to share with us this evening.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Given. Theo. So I'll just keep it short. I mean, what I learned over the last kind of 20 years was that old saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's very important.
Alan, I'm going to go there. And yeah, if you can just give us the top three lessons that you have learned. As I said, a tough act to follow, Dr. Nkuna.
No problem. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So yeah, it is a tough act to follow, but so I'm not going to try compete. I'll just rather keep it short. But like I learned, over time, I just realized that that's old saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know is quite important. So your network, the school you went to, the university you went to, the company you worked with, those are massive factors in your life. And if you weren't fortunate enough to go, grade school, or have parents that were wealthy or whatever, you have to work your way into that kind of world. But fundamentally, it's about your reputation. So if you have a reputation for taking shortcuts, then you'll attract people who are lazy. And if you have a reputation for lying, you'll attract lies. On the other hand, if you have a reputation for being straight and doing the right thing, then you'll attract those kind of people. The second lesson was to choose your partners very carefully. I'm not sure about the experience of my fellow panelists. I'd love to hear their experience around partners. It comes up all the time with me. Like, a lot of people ask me, how do you choose the right partner? I've had a few bad partners, but I've also had some great partners. So like, a bad partner experience doesn't mean you shouldn't choose your partners. But I do think that it's quite important to understand what your own values are and what's important to you, because partnering with someone in business is like getting married, and if you're not actually the same kind of person, it's going to end badly. And probably tied into that is not being desperate. So if you put yourself in a position where you're desperate for a partner, it's likely that you're going to choose the wrong partner, and it's going to end up in a bad breakup. And then for most entrepreneurs that for like myself, I find it quite difficult to focus. So, you know, focus is a very important thing, and it starts with kind of trying to keep your financial overheads low, so you know you're not distracted by money and debt and all that. And then saying no to opportunities, and then, you know, the controversial one that I always punt is get married. You know, so if you want to take a lot of noise out of your life, just get married. You know, like, you know, maybe you make a mistake, but then get divorced and get married again. You know, just kind of quickly. You know, find someone, get on with life, but it takes a lot of noise and distraction, and Wednesday nights and Thursday nights and Friday nights, and, you know, you've got somebody got your back, and you can kind of focus on your business. If you want to be successful in business, it's nice to take the romantic kind of noise out of your life, you know.
I like that, Alan, not Craig. That's very, very nice. And I can see people are really giving you the thumbs up on that situation. Just, you know, you talk about reputation. And I love this quote, that really effectively, reputation is what people say when you are not in the room. So that to look at it. I'm coming here now, given 3 lessons, and we're going to close out with Liko and her lessons. But given we are really building a very solid base here in terms of lessons learned for all the entrepreneurs that are listening, and we've got about 350 people on this platform, taking away these nuggets of wisdom that you as top entrepreneurs are sharing with us this evening.
Thanks a lot. Alan cracks me. Look, I think that we're first and foremost, we are spiritual beings. Okay. And people are not stupid. Your staff, your customers, your funders, partners are not stupid. And it doesn't take a lot of time for fake propositions to be exposed. And I think that's what Alan was alluding to. Number 2, there's absolutely nothing wrong with tenders. Black people do not allow anybody to make you feel like less of a business person when you do business with the state. Trust me, some of South Africa's biggest businesses that you celebrate and praise are the biggest tenderpreneurs. Okay, so go ahead, do business with the state. The problem, however, is if the proposition and the solution for you is a tender. A tender is a business development platform. That's all it is. But you can't be in the business of tenders. There's no business that I know is, what do you do? They say, this business does sales. Of what? So give a tender a hug, but let the tender not be the proposition, right? I also want to allude, I just wrote a note here that leadership, like entrepreneurship, is not a popularity contest. For as long as you want to be famous and popular, trust me, enter a competition on television, not business, all right? This is hard work. And of course, you're going to get enemies. Of course, the more you succeed, you're going to be labeled. And if you don't want to take the punches, don't come to this ring. It's not very, very nice. But if you are self-sponsored, and if you do it authentically for the right reasons, and you are spiritually grounded, even when the punches come your way, they just propel you, and it becomes fun. That's all I can share for now.
Hugely profound as always, Mr. Given Makari. But before I go to Liko, give me some insight into the 25th of November and Royal Causa. What can we anticipate? Because there are a lot of people listening now who are going to tune into that conversation.
Yeah, I think that we're just going to test the pulse of the nation. First, check if we are still alive. First, check if there are still souls in this place, if there's an economy, and what are some of the tried views and thoughts and reflections around honest things that we must do to get this nation awake again. I suspect that a lot of us are in ICU, and hopefully Dr. Walkosa will inject some life into the society. And it's, once again, I repeat, it's not an interview. It's a conversation. I think it will be a lot of fun. I've had Rupert, and the previous one we had President Becky. The one last year, or 2019, we had President Ramaphosa in absentia. This time, I'm very excited, and I think it will be the best chairman's conversation we've had to date.
Well, I'm sure there's not one person on this call that is going to miss the chairman's conversation. So really looking forward to that being on the agenda. 25th of November, what time, Given?
We go live at 7, but those of you who love television and radio and print and YouTube, we're omnipresent. You can't run away from us. So we'll be announcing next week, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, all or most of our partners. We've got a massive partnership network. So there's no town or rural or city on this continent or anywhere in the world where you should be denied from a conversation with Dr. Walker. So we'll be announcing those partnerships next week, 7 o'clock live.
So Liko, I know that you are going to blow us away with the insights that you are going to share with us now. Again, you know, for me, you are transforming the face of agriculture. And I think everybody on this platform can see how amazing this journey has been for you, or can hear and understand how amazing the journey has been, and really that your future looks very, very bright. So top 3 lessons, knowing that you are actually taking us to the close of this conversation.
Wow, so much pressure, Bronwyn, thank you. For me, the first one will be, you know, the Jews call it chutzpah. You must have extreme audacity, sibeti. You must know that you're walking into, you know, industries that already have occupants, you know, people that have been in them for years. So you must have, you know, that audacity, that chutzpah to kick those doors, to challenge policies, to challenge regulations. You know, there's just a whole lot that you need to go out there and challenge. In my case, in agriculture, I'm a woman. I always walk into boardrooms, into you know, warehouses that are male dominated. I'm always dressed, you know, I'm always in a dress, just in case you don't hear my voice, that I'm here to kick doors. You can just take a look at me and see that, you know, this is a woman. She's got something to say. She's got something to contribute. You better give her an ear. And the second one will be, you have to be resilient, because, you know, you're walking into spaces where you're going to cause a lot of talk. You're going to have a lot of enemies. You're going to be sabotaged. We've seen it in the industry. You know, when we first started with chickens, you want to start, you know, you look at what's happening in the industry, you realize that a lot of black growers are just, you know, raising chickens. They are not in the business of selling fertile eggs. You know, the space is so close. It doesn't allow them to even, you know, have parents and grandparents stock that allows them to sell those fertile eggs. You know, the egg that you can do is a table egg that you can just crack and fry at home. And, you know, so we went out there and we wanted these fertile eggs, but of course we didn't have the funding, you know, that allowed us to keep the grandparent stock. So we had to go into, you know, the big guys, businesses to get those eggs. But half the time, you know, the eggs will not hatch. You know, so that's part of the sabotage, that yes, the industry will want to close you out. You have to be very resilient. You have to go out there and demand to get into spaces that are not occupied by, you know, small businesses. Get yourself together. We have formed a platform, you know, Farmers United of South Africa, or FUSA, that allows farmers to come together as a group. You know, we buy as a group and we sell as a group. We go out there, we talk to government as a group. I mean, there's power in numbers, right? So use yourselves, come together and fight hard. Fear nothing, be very confident, kick those doors, and learn. My third one will be to learn to fail forward. Failure will come, it will come. You know, farming has showed us that. Farming has tested us to the core. I mean, plant something to get today, a hailstorm will come and damage your entire crop. You will have absolutely nothing to sell to the people that you have promised crops. So learn to fail forward, learn to stand up, dust yourself and carry on, you know. So the 3 key lessons for me would be that have chutzpah, have that sibiti, go out there, challenge the status quo, be very resilient, they will come for you, stand up, keep moving, never fail, and, you know, quit the process. If it's in you and that's what you want to do, keep going.
So keep going, Liko, you have actually led us to the point that we're going to keep going with this conversation. There's so much interactivity, and I want to open up to questions from the floor. So if you've got questions for our amazing panel, please put it into the chat function and I'll start calling them out, the answers that you are looking for. We want this to be your session and question. And the comments that are coming forward. Theo, I want to come back to you while we wait for some questions to come through. And in fact, let's just go here. Where do our speakers offer any formal mentorship for youth? And is there anybody? Let's go, sort of move around the panel now. Mentorship for youth. Can we talk to this? Of course, this is the foundation of what Yolanda Kuba and the Mentorship Boardroom really stands for. And that is mentorship, empowering, giving time back, and certainly helping our youth to walk in the paths of, and to learn from the lessons that you have, you know, had the hard yards around. So Theo, let me bring you in here, or anybody else wants to talk about mentorship for youth particularly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I think Lieko has said it, that you know you need to have the chutzpah. So before I answer your question, Bronwyn, is that I'll get to use my chutzpah on this platform and say, Mr. Mkari, in the next 20 years, I will be sitting with you on that, you know, chairman's conversation. But for now, I would appreciate, you know, that invitation to be part of the elite on the day. You know, I will just really appreciate that. But I think we'll chat about that later on the other app, you know. But I think what I've learned from you is that, you know, mentorship is really important, in a sense that, you know, you have so much that you can leverage from, you know, leverage in a sense that if you want to go into a sector, or you want to go into business, or it could be even generally life skills in general about, you know, the leader and the type of person that you want to be in the future. You know, you've got this person who have walked the journey before you, you know, and they allow you to tap into their wealth, you know, of knowledge, you know, and that wisdom that you can really, you know, sort of leverage from their mistakes. You know, they've paid the school fees, you know, before you, and, you know, if you get to engage with them either in person or visually or any other way, and then you look up to them, you know, you get to avoid so many I think, you know, lessons that can cost you, or mistakes that can cost you so much, because you've got this person that have walked the journey before you, you know, and it's such a privilege. I mean, I think, Mr. Mkari, you're in broadcasting yourself. So if you have someone who's an aspiring, I think, broadcaster themselves, and they get to tap into your wealth of experience, and they get to learn about the art of broadcasting, the business of broadcasting, you know, and I think there's so much that they can get from it. So I'm a product of mentorship myself, because I've been mentored by great leaders, you know, in business, you know, in corporate as well. And hence, you know, I get to run the business that I'm running, the size of the business that I'm running, and running the way I'm running it, because before even going into business, I was mentored by great leaders that have been in business for some time. And even today, you know, there's a lot of people that are just a phone call away that have been, you know, went through this journey of corporatizing and scaling before me. And I can just, you know, get onto the call with them and ask for some advice, you know. So it's really important. And even platforms like this, and I need to give it up to Yolanda and the team for, you know, making for all the efforts to make sure that these platforms exist and making them a great success, and inviting great people as well, you know, to share their wisdom. So I think mentorship is very important. You know, you cannot sort of do without it, you know, and Rome is not built in one day. And I think we as a continent, we need that sort of inclusive approach into anything else that we aspire to achieve.
I think, you know, you're demonstrating great courage and the confidence, and you see it in everybody that's spoken this evening. But I also want us to be a little bit vulnerable, and it goes to the question that's being asked at the moment on the platform, which is saying, you know, do you feel self-doubt as you try to find yourself? Is it normal to have doubts? Please tell us that it is normal. Alan, not Craig. Or Liko.
It is normal. Or is Alan going? It is normal. You will question yourself. People will say things to you in a meeting, horrible things. You know, you'll go home, you will question yourself, you will question your passion, you will question God. You know, if really the passion, the purpose that he's given you is it, or has things changed a bit and he forgot to let you know. So, you know, you get that, but you always have to have, I call it a voice of reason. That's my mentor. It can come in a conversation. It can come, you know, like just a sober person that will constantly, you know, you can be vulnerable with, and they can remind you of who you are. So you need to find that thing for you. It can be a voice, or it can be an activity, or it can be a memory, or it can be anything really that will constantly remind you of who you are. Before my friend, my best friend passed away. So before her, I used to go home. I used to go home to my bedroom, my childhood bedroom, and just, you know, cuddle up in my childhood bed and just be a kid again, because that's where all of this comes from. Agriculture for me comes from my childhood, my roots. You know, so I'll go there, I'll go to my rural village, I'll hang out with my rural people, and that activity on its own will remind me of who I am. And then I can be able to face the world again with confidence and you know, with my true self. So that is very important. You have to find that one thing and always tend to it when the world wants to shake you up a little.
Thank you for sharing. So Alan, I'm going to get you to come in here. I want to talk about vulnerability. I want to keep this theme going. Dr. Nkuna, you are following Alan. So Alan?
Well, thanks for that, Bronwyn. I think, in my personal opinion, it's my personal opinion that like business works well when you trust one another. And it's pretty hard to know whether you can trust people unless you've kind of made yourself vulnerable early on, you know. And, you know, because, you know, if you get, the more vulnerable you are, the more likely somebody is going to try to take advantage. If they take advantage, then, you know, you can't trust them and you can move on to the next person. And if you can kind of find a way to kind of minimize your downside, when you make yourself vulnerable, you can kind of quickly filter out those that are trying to take advantage and find those that want to help you get ahead and share your vision or your dream and are going to help you. So, you know, my opinion is, you know, a little bit of pain in the short term is better than delaying that down the road and making a much bigger explosion down the road.
And again, you know, coming back to that theme of partnership that you touched on earlier, and how absolutely important it is to find the right partners. And I think great advice being shared there is that, you know, find this out early on. Dr. Nkuna, did you have self-doubt at any point in your 46-year journey?
Well, I can tell you that, you know, I never had any doubts in my journey. You know, I used to have, I still have, you know, a self-belief in me. Because you see, whatever, you know, you do, if you don't have that confidence, it won't happen. But see, if, you know, you have, you know, that confidence that, you know, I'll do it, you know, you end up doing it. And I can see on the side here, there's some questions that have been posed to me in terms of how do I deal with, you know, the land in the, you know, rural area, because see, it's so difficult. There's nothing that is difficult as long as, you know, you understand that, you know, there are processes that have to be followed. When you do development in the rural areas, you start from the communities where you live, where the chiefs are, and then you get what, you know, we call, you know, tribal resolution. And then from there, you move from the tribe to the rural development and land reform. It used to be combined, but now it's land reform only. And then, you know, they'll then come to the people and ask whether you know that, you know, Dr. Nguna wants to do this kind of development. Do you support this kind of development? And those people, you know, if, you know, they support what, you know, you want to develop, they'll support it. However, there are people that go to the rural area with the view of confusing, you know, the tribal, you know, chiefs, as if, you know, they don't understand, and try and, you know, get, you know, PTO in a legal manner. Those people will always have problems. So myself, I've never had, you know, problems with, you know, developing in rural areas. Instead, you know, those people, they are the ones who invite me and offer land on a time from time to time. So the opportunities are there as long as, you know, you have a viable scheme, and you must be able to understand where the market is, because you see, you cannot just go and take any land from anywhere and say, you know, you want to development and without the market. You must be able to understand how you're going to, you know, attract market. You must be able to understand what sort of population are you going to have in those areas, and the number of people that, you know, are working.
So Dr. Nkuna, you know, you always just hit the ball right out of the park. There's another question that's come up that There's another question that's come up. As I said, Dr. Nkuna, you always hit the ball right out of the park, Dr. Nkuna, and just a huge resounding applause from all of the people that are listening this evening. Let's talk a bit more about work-life balance when you're building a business. Now, this is something that resonates hugely with me. I have decided that I have absolutely no work-life balance, and it's because I'm in the early stages of building my own business. So, talk to us about work-life balance. Do you have to give it all up? Do you have to give up the, you know, the life part and focus all on your work in the early stages?
Bronwyn, in January 2021 will be the first time in my adult life since standard 10 where I'll have more than 2 weeks of a break. Ask anybody who's ever worked with me. I have not had the luxury of taking a break. It's not healthy. I don't encourage it. So hopefully that deals with that. I don't think that in its early stages of any transformative entrepreneurial journey that entrepreneurs should give themselves that type of pressure of the idea of a work-life balance. To a lot of us as business people, our work is our sport, it's our best friend. As I said earlier on, it's a spiritual thing. And it actually talks to that question around vulnerability. For me, you got to first be vulnerable to self in understanding that there are some things that I don't know as well, where I need reinforcement. For me, that's a minimum and maximum requirement, or should be the minimum and maximum requirement for vulnerability, being honest with self. And as you become honest with self, you realize that being vulnerable does not require you to outsource critical decisions, because as somebody who births a product, the likelihood is that you have a fair sense of how you like it, but you may not necessarily be the best person to bring it out to life in optimal terms. So vulnerability means accepting that you need support, but not necessarily to outsource decisions. I hope I answered the question.
Liko, coming here on this question of balance, and the phase that you're in from a business perspective, do you agree with given there that you've got to give everything to the workplace? I mean, giving us an indication that, you know, since matric, he has not had a 2-week break in December. Is this the reality for you as well?
No, it's not the reality for me. I'm a mother. I have a trooper of kids. We've got 8 kids between my partner and I. I have, you know, parents that just live an off-ramp away from us. The business is also very demanding. And if you don't take that break, your body will actually force you to. So, you know, this year, I gave birth to my little one in January, and I decided I was going to test all the systems that I have been, you know, working on in my business, you know, putting in place and all of that by staying at home for 6 months. Oh. And I just decided I'm going to switch off and test this whole thing. If I say I've set up a business with a good foundation, let us see. So I stayed home for 6 months. You have to also have a partner, you know, that can support you and chip in. I'm very fortunate that my partner and I are in the same line of business. So he's there, and he's also like Given. He doesn't believe in taking breaks. I forced him the past school holidays to go away with the kids for 7 full days, because that's when you can come back refreshed, rejuvenated, you know, with fresh ideas. Exposure is everything. You need to go out there and see what's happening, unplug a little bit and go out there, mix and mingle with the people, you know, see how other businesses are running, go to places where you would like to in the future, maybe, you know, set up shop and things like that. So I'm the queen of taking breaks. From the onset, when a meeting doesn't go well and I just want to cry and, you know, nest myself back into it, I go to the movies, and that helps me, because I come back a little bit rejuvenated, you know, with a little bit. It helps to switch off, because then you can be able to, you know, be on the balcony and watch the dance, as I call it. Otherwise, you're always in the dance. You're always on the dance floor, you know, stepping on toes, not seeing what's what, and yeah, tra-la-la, going about it. And so for me, I always like to step out a little bit, go on the balcony and watch the dance and see if it's still perfect, or if it's still, you know, need a little bit of coordination.
I love that analogy. But now look at the scenario. We've got polar opposites in terms of work-life balance. You've got Liko on one side and you've got Given on the other side.
No,
Yeah.
correction. No, correction. Correction, please.
Correction.
I said it is not healthy not to take a break. I just related my journey that I have not had the luxury of such. So
Okay,
Liko, and Liko's business partner is a very good friend of mine. Ronnie and I are made like that. And we always say to each other, brother, you got to take a break. You got to take a break. It's not healthy. Let nobody glorify not taking a break. I was just demonstrating that sometimes when you want it so bad and you are going to push the needle, you find yourself pushing yourself beyond normality, and it is not healthy. It should not be encouraged.
I love the context. I hear you loud and clear, and I'm right in your camp. And now I know that I'm also doing what you're doing, and it is not right. So let's take from Liko, and as you say, given that it's not about what you want to do, but it's where you found the necessity that you've had to just put your head to the grindstone. Theo, weigh in here on whether in the early phase you can have that work-life balance.
Yeah, I think, you know, if there's if I call it a moment of weakness in my approach, or where I like, it's exactly that, you know, taking some time off. And I've been struggling with it for the longest of time, but I think it comes with passion, you know. Oftentimes when, for me, I've been planning, by the way, I've been planning to get away for the last 7 weeks, if you know, 6 or 7 weeks. It's just not happening, because every week there's something to jump on, you know? So every week it's like, oh, in the next 2 weeks I'm out of here, you know, but it just never happens. And I think I don't recommend it, but there's something about passion that just sort of drives you, you know, because you, in your line of work, you just have something that doesn't feel like work. And it feels like know, it just does something to your inner core. It does something to, you know, who you are as a human being. And it's so fulfilling. I mean, you look at what we did with our business, and a lot of people didn't understand why I'm doing this, but it brings so much joy to me. The Batu for Batu Care project, where we're donating school shoes, we're not getting anything out of it. And the moment they say we've got a drop, whether it's a 50 pairs of school shoes or 100 pairs of school shoes, for me, I get so excited about it. And I think there's that balance around passion project and trade, you know, and in between that, for some of us, because we're just so passionate about what you do, the passion product comes off as a break, you know, a break from the bottom line of the business, a break from, you know, looking at the returns of the business, a break from strategy, a break from growth, even a break from leadership, because it just hits home, you know, and it does something to the leader in you, and you feel so much relaxed and motivated, you know. But I don't recommend that approach or that methodology. I still believe that breaks are really, really important. The problem about breaks is that you are on the beach reading emails, you know, you are on the beach going through a proposal, you know, you are sipping a beer, but then you've got at the back of your mind, you're just thinking about, you know, the business and the summer campaign and what's really happening in the business, you know. So I'm still struggling with it, and I haven't taken much break. But if Mr. Mkari, you know, is in the longest time of, you know, his business trade or in trade, he's only taking, you know, a 2-week break the first time, or he's only done that this year, you know, I still feel like I've got the energy for it. But what I'm trying to say is that my break comes from my passion projects more than anything else.
I hear you loud and clear, and I go back to I mean, I fundamentally believe that when you're passionate about what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And perhaps that's what it is about. When you do find that element of passion and you make it your business, you can't get enough of it. So maybe that's the reality. Well, we've got 4 minutes to close. I don't want any of you to walk away from this conversation saying, I wish that Bronwyn had asked me this question, or this is actually what I wanted to share when it comes to my entrepreneurial journey and how I think I can inspire other entrepreneurs out there. So in these last 5 minutes, I want to move around the panel, effectively the virtual panel, and you give us what you want to say. Do not let this conversation end saying Bronwyn didn't ask me the right questions. So I'm going to start. I'm going to really just turn things around. Liko, I'm going to start with you here.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, it will just be an insight to the audience on how the agricultural or our food system is currently structured in the country. You know, the takeaway that we all need to go back with is that we don't have a food security issue in the country. We have plenty of food sitting in rural areas, sitting in small-scale farmers that needs to reach the people. We need to come together as South Africa and find ways, alternative ways, to distribute that food, to make sure that it gets to the people that needs it the most at the price that is affordable to them. And we can only pull this off when we come together and do it as a country. We need to start democratizing fresh produce. We need to get, you know, each and every single South African to taste strawberries, to taste blueberries, because what you get on the shop floor is blueberries or strawberries that look beautiful. The ones that are blemished, they don't reach the floors of the supermarkets at all. They get discarded, they get thrown away. So food is there in abundance. It is sitting on our farms. It is sitting in our rural areas. Let's vote with our pockets. We are the consumer. We buy this food. Let us go out there and challenge the retailers to give us shelf space to sell, you know, the so-called ugly vegetables. Let us go out there and open our own supermarkets, a parallel system that will allow people to also be able to trade food and allow the consumer to decide. You know, at the moment, we're not allowing people to decide. If you give me a blemished tomato, I know I'm gonna get home and chop it up anyway and make gravy. So why are you denying me that choice as corporate South Africa or as corporate retail South Africa to buy anything that I want. If it's going to come at a rand or at 50 cents, make it available to me. Let us not, let food waste be the death of us, because at the moment we are faced with 1 in every 3 South Africans going to bed hungry while food is being dumped. Billions of rands of food is being dumped on the farms on a day-to-day basis. You are welcome to come with me on these trips to see what happens out there to food that doesn't reach the retail floors. Thank you.
So, Lika, I want to beam you into the agricultural discussions here at the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. I think that you would absolutely transform these discussions. Dr. Nkuna.
Well,
I think we've lost Dr. Nkuna there in terms of certainly getting statements out there. So we have lost Dr. Nkuna. Can I come through now and get Alan, the one thing that you want to make sure everybody hears this evening?
Thanks, Bronwyn, and thanks again for the invitation. My own experience of life was that I don't think I was asking myself the right questions.
Trying to prove a point.
Sorry, I don't want to speak if Dr. Nkuna is speaking. I can hear him in the background. Okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I think let's see if we can get him back. I think we might be battling with signal there. I think we might have lost him, Alan, so go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean...
without the point that I wanted to prove, can you hear me?
No, Dr. Nkuna, we're battling to hear you. We're battling to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We're battling to hear you, Dr. Nkuna. Let's see if we...
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead. Let's try.
Yeah, I was saying that I was one of the victims. When you are an entrepreneur, you want to prove a point that you can always make it. And also in when you look in the space where I was operating, it was a space which was dominated by a white nation only. So I was eager to prove a point. So at some stage, you'll find that I'll work without going out on holiday. But now we have managed to build a critical number of assets. We have decided to corporatize, and we have managed to even hire a black woman who was waiting for a 2-degree Liberty Life. She was managing Sandton City. Her name is Nikiwe Mkabele. So she has joined us. So I'm glad that I'm empowering our black ladies and give them an opportunity to prove themselves that they can do it. And she's coming with bright, innovative way of improving how we operate. And by so saying, one would be able to go on holiday and relax and look to my family better.
Alan.
Yes.
Just in terms of that final statement, what you don't want to have unsaid as we leave.
Thanks, Bronwyn. So, I spent my whole career trying to figure out what success was, and I thought it was a jet, and I thought it was a Ferrari, and then I thought it was purpose, and I thought a lot of things. And then I realized instead of chasing success, I've got to start asking myself, what is the definition? And then I ultimately settled on this kind of idea that that you do need money and you need a happy marriage and you hopefully have a good health and all of that. It would be nice to have a jet. But mostly it's just about trying to live a life that you can look back on and not feel ashamed about, you know, which doesn't mean necessarily, you know, just sticking to the law, because a lot of people stick to the law. But, you know, that just because you're legal doesn't mean you're honorable. And so, like, you know, I would just say to the whole audience, you know, if you're going to spend time in your day and your week, just kind of ask yourself, what are the values? What's important to you, you know, like, and because the moment you've kind of defined that for yourself, then you're gonna find yourself attracted to the right kind of people, and those people are going to help you succeed. But if you haven't decided for yourself what's important to you, then it's going to be hard for people to know what is important to you, and it's going to be hard for you to find partners that are going to help you find success.
Theo?
Oh yeah, I think for me it's more than anything else, just closing remarks, you know, to the public in general, that Africa has been at the receiving end for the longest of time, and the receiving end of the latest technology, the latest app, you know, and now Africa is our time. You know, we've got so much heritage in our continent. I mean, South Africa alone is known to be a rainbow nation, you know, different ways of speaking, 11 official languages, you know, different ways of engaging. It's about time that we take that heritage, that diversity, and incorporate it into ecosystems, into value chains, even products and services that we can export to the rest of the world, you know, and we can show the world what we are capable of, either in our stories, in our diversity, in our heritage, anything really incorporated into sustainable ecosystems and value chains that we can export to the rest of the world. And I think that's what I want to do with Batu, you know, to build a proudly African sneaker brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with, and tell a beautiful, untold South African story to the rest of the world, and in it, build a sustainable business that creates impact.
Final word to you, Given Makari.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and thanks to the rest of the panel and the team that put this together. And I think my message is exactly similar to what Theo was saying, is that if you're a challenger brand and you are a challenger in any category, any market, you are not going to win if you're going to act and emulate the people you want to beat. So, dear Africa, dear Black people in particular, question whose God is this that you're praying to? Whose food, whose taste bud are you eating? Whose music are you listening to? Because you are not going to win anything if you start at a position of weakness by doing other people's things and you think you're going to compete. What is that fresh perspective, fresh insight that you are bringing into the market through a product or a service? And I suspect that if you bring back the best of yourself, come into business with your ancestors, your food taste, your own history, bring yourself first if you like to be the next. Thank you very much.
Wow, Mr. Makari. Again, we've had so many balls knocked right out of the park this evening. Great words to end on. Thank you very, very much. And just to everybody who joined us for the Mentorship Boardrooms Roundtable, thank you for listening. Thank you for your interactivity. A brilliant panel and such great honest insights being shared across the board. And then finally, I just want to say again, thank you so much to Yolanda Kuba. I think you've heard it being said over and over again by every single panelist this evening. Yolanda, you are making a huge difference in South Africa, and we are here to support you as you grow the Mentorship Boardroom from strength to strength. Have a great evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us.